All right, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a minute. Uh, I hope this comes out all right. Kind of goofy. All my stuff has been messing with me lately. As per normal, I guess nothing's changed. You know what I mean? It's all the same. Anyways, we got a bunch of goofy stuff going on. I guess we'll start with. I don't know what the most pressing matter is. I don't know if any of it's really pressing. It's entertaining. Um, the first thing I think I was looking at was, the whole thing going on with Twitter right now. With Musk putting out the Twitter files. That's been quite interesting. There's a bunch more of it coming out tonight. He released it to Matt Taibbi. Matt Taibbi is now being basically cannibalized by the leftist media, and Taibbi has always been he's always been a left of center leaning journalist, but he's objective. He's actually he's a great author. I've read a lot of his books. Got nothing but complimentary things to say about the guy. I mean, I think he embodies what a journalist should be. So, for all these hacks out there that are hacking on him, well, do your worst, because at the end of the day, you're all just that, hacks. The CNNs, the whatever, goofballs at MSDNC, and these people that couldn't write their way out of a paper bag. Matt Taibbi has done so. He was an expat that came back from Russia, so he's been around. Hell of a basketball player and a great writer and a good journalist. He was with Rolling Stone. He left there because he was getting censored. Him and Katie Halpert had a show, and I believe they've done different things now. I'm not positive. Don't quote me on that, because I don't want to say anything that's incorrect. I'm trying to remember the name of their show. I think it was called Useful Idiots, which is what I refer to myself as quite often. Anyhow, so Matt Taibbi has put out a string of Twitter threads, and he's exposed the emails that have gone on inter-office. And it kind of exposed Twitter for what it was. And hopefully it turns into something else now. I mean, everybody's all wound up and upset that, Elon Musk is going to let everybody say what they want to say. Oh, isn't that what the whole idea of the thing is? I mean, if all of you little weak asses, if words hurt you, then I guess don't get involved in the conversation. Don't read it. Don't have a social media account. I mean, if you're going to let these things totally just destroy you. I mean, there was a tweet that Elon put out there earlier today, and it was in response to his ex-wife. Absolutely hilarious. She was just going off on him. Well, so I suppose now we're supposed to have the debate in a public forum about blah, 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 and this and that. And he just put, a lot of times an emoji doesn't do it, but this time it did. I'm going to see if I can find that while we're talking here. It was pretty funny. I mean, it was like just a typical, it's kind of a face that you'd see a dude make, like, just like, just that cringe shit, you know what I mean? Sorry, I got a little sniff. I got the snifflies. Oh, I'm already logged in. Okay, great. I'm already logged into the Twitters. Apparently. Okay, well, if I'm already logged in, then let's open her up. Yeah, okay, there we go. So I'm already logged. Okay, where am I logged in at? I don't want to take myself off of Streamlabs. Maybe I won't be able to pull this up. Let's go next. Log me in. Get me in there. Come on. All right. Well, we probably aren't going to be able to take a look at that one. Anyway, pretty funny. I don't understand why everybody's losing their mind. I mean, if the things you have to say, have merit, then why are you worried about, the Orange Man being on there, or anybody else for that matter? I personally, I don't believe in hate speech. There's bad speech. There's speech that, you can, here's the thing. If somebody says some ignorant, dumbass shit, you shut them down. You counter bad speech with better speech. You don't cry and go hide under a rock and point your finger at the bad man or whoever said it. If what they're saying is that bad and ridiculous, it should be fairly easy to counter. Or it should be easy just to turn your back and walk away. Sometimes silence does a hell of a lot more than sitting there and getting involved in a back and forth with somebody. Which is why I don't respond to comments or anything that I have. I don't look at them. I don't care. I say what I'm going to say right here. You can say what you want to say, and if you want to argue amongst yourselves, by all means, please feel free to do so. But I also have the freedom not to get involved in it. I think about what I'm going to say on this podcast. I think about where I'm going with it. A lot of it's ad lib, but I do have my trusty note cards in front of me, to try and stay on point, because I get off there a little bit. But anyway, the whole thing with Twitter, it's come out that, they had a lot of things going on, and a lot of things going on behind Jack Dorsey's back. The big one, though, here's the big one. The big thing is what it did with the election, okay? Because you had a huge story come out, put out initially by the New York Post, and they put it on Twitter, and Twitter, they took it down. And this was about Hunter Biden's laptop. Okay, this guy Mac at the computer shop had been sitting on that laptop for the amount of time that is within his contract. If you leave something sitting there for a certain amount of time, it becomes his. He goes to wipe it. He looks at it. He said there was he dropped off 3 laptops, and 1 out of the 3 was even salvageable. So at that point, he's going to try and recoup what he's put in time in that. And I would imagine, and now this is speculation, okay, allegedly. I would imagine that somebody that owns a shop like that, you take the device, you wipe it clean, and you turn around and you put it on, maybe you've got an eBay store, maybe you've got Facebook Marketplace, maybe you sell things on Amazon, maybe you just sell it out of your store. But when you go to wipe it and you see the things on it that you see, like Mac did, he felt that it was necessary for him to take it to somebody and show them. So it had to have been disturbing, because think about this. As a guy that runs a computer shop, I'm sure he's seen some pretty fucked up shit. People have fucked up shit on their computers. You know what I mean? And they don't realize it. I mean, they take it in there to get worked on. He can see everything. I'm sure he's probably seen some. So for that to have to go to, I believe he took it to, it either went, I want to say he called the FBI. This is all, like I said, I'd have to look at the timeline, but it ended up in Giuliani's hands. The FBI got a hold of it. They've played dumb. They've been in Congress getting questioned, saying they don't know what's on it, saying that they can't talk about an ongoing investigation that may or may not be happening. Well, if it's not happening, then you don't have to say it. You know what I mean? Like, if it's not happening, then you just answer no. It's just like when Christopher Wray was asked the question of, were there FBI informants in the crowd on January 6th? And he said he couldn't talk about it. Well, that tells you right there that yes, there were, because otherwise he would just say no. If Ray Epps, which who knows what's going on there, that's a fiasco. I've been doing some homework on that whole thing. But anyway, January 6th was a direct side effect of, obviously, the election. Now, polls taken said 16% of the people would have changed their mind on who they voted for. Would that have made a difference in the election? Well, yes, it would have, So right there, we see the way not only Twitter, but Facebook also had the FBI show up and tell them, hey, now you got to be vigilant. We have a feeling there's Russian disinformation, misinformation coming that's going to be coming out soon. And they shut it down. Well, CBS, the Washington Post, the New York Times, all these liberal news media outlets have been forced now to say that the thing existed. There was proof in the interoffice emails that they were very well intentioned on not doing anything that would not only aid Trump, but not do anything that wouldn't hurt his chances. So, I mean, the president got banned off of Twitter and Facebook because he said mean things to people. He called people horse faces and, made up nicknames that stuck. I don't know. I'm not on Twitter that much. I get on there maybe, I don't know, every couple of days. I usually will get on there and promote my podcast. I put out a link for some merch on there too. So if you see that, get on there and get some merch. I got t-shirts, hoodies, tank tops. For all you guys in the kitchen, I got some nice aprons for you. I got some coffee mugs on there. All kinds of nifty stuff. I think the hoodies are pretty cool. I got some more designs I'm working on. So they'll be out there. Anyway, there should be a link on the Facebook feed, the YouTube feed, and wherever else this ends up going. It'll go on Anchor, so it'll be on Spotify later. I just can't live stream it to Spotify. So typically when I get done, I upload it to Spotify. So if you guys watch it on there, I don't know if you do or not, there's 80 million different uploads on Spotify. So I'm kind of doubtful many people see it. But if you do want to watch it and you are a Spotify person like I am, I love Spotify, to tell you the truth. I mean, I think it's great, So anyway, back to the nature at hand. So within Twitter, and this is all backed up by emails. I read them all earlier. They're on there. You can find it on Matt Taibbi's page. The whole threads are there, and he's got copies of it all. So you had what they called the SRT GET, which was the Strategic Response Team / Global Escalation Team at Twitter. And then you had a higher group up called the SIP, PE, like this. I'm just going to call them the SIPpies. All right, you had the SIPpies, SIPPES. They're the Site Integrity Policy and Policy Escalation Support, and that included Vijaya Gadde, Parag Agrawal, and Dorsey. But a lot of this was going on behind Dorsey's back, allegedly. And so they could do stuff that, and they said that you don't understand the lengths that they could go to suppress information from people, to make sure that your tweet doesn't get seen. It's like what's happened to me with this podcast, because it took off fairly quickly. And I thought, wow, cool. And then I said a couple things they didn't like that turned out to be right. But I ate 2 suspensions and never got an apology. And as far as I know, I've been pretty much in the same boat, shadow banned, I mean, which, whatever. The show's on Rumble too. At least I believe it is. It's supposed to be. I'm paying them every month to put it up there. I haven't got anything out of it, but, that's not what it's about anyways. I'm just trying to get the information out. So anyway, so it's all coming out. Sounds like Musk is going to go in front of Congress, and that should be an interesting hearing, because the truth is going to come out now. Now, are the American people, are we smart enough to process what has happened here? Because everybody, okay, all you out there who have worn a, hang on, that stupid fridge. I hope that doesn't kill the stream. We'll see. Sometimes it does. It didn't, thankfully. I've got too much stuff wired up in here. Anyhow, are we going to be too stupid to figure this out? Or was it worth it to get the bad man out and get this geriatric mushhead in? Now, I'm going to show you a quick video. And this is the smartest man that our president knows. Okay? This is what we're talking about right here. So hang on just one moment. Let me find my monitor. All right, there he is. Okay, this is allegedly old Hunter Biden. Here, let me put my logo down. Sorry about that. My bad. There. All right. And he's sitting in the old bathtub. And watch what he's getting ready to do. Oh, sparking it up. Ooh.
Is the smartest man I know.
How about that?
And the lie detector test.
I'm not trying to get a copyright. I probably will. Anyway. Fairly funny. He's got video of like that all over the place. It's ridiculous. Absolutely crazy. The dude videoed everything. Like earlier on that same on this same thing, there's oh God. Let's see if we can find it. You know, and they're asking him about the laptop. Well, it may or may not be. I don't know. There could be a laptop. Maybe there is. Maybe somebody stole it. Maybe somebody hacked it. Maybe it's mine. I don't know. I wasn't really in the right state of mind. It's like, yeah, you're walking around naked with a handgun that you obtained illegally. You know? Flying all over the place, doing business for your father, with your uncle. You know? Taking 31 million from the Chinese, you know, clocking 85 G's a month from Burisma over there in Ukraine. And you're broke. That's the crazy thing is he's broke. I mean, there's a you know, a clip that he filmed where he was given an Eastern European lady of the night whom he had flown over to the United States, which I think if you're flying somebody into the country that you're paying for sex, I believe that's prostitution, and it's also not only just like in-state prostitution, but I mean, when you're talking about international prostitution, I think that's probably falls under some kind of a federal guideline, I would think. But it doesn't matter because it's Hunter Biden. That's all good. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if Donald Trump Jr. or Eric Trump behaved like this? If they did this type of shit? I mean, Trump would be impeached 17 more times. I mean, you know, Pelosi'd be running around with her hair on fire, dentures falling out. Chuck Schumer would probably be sitting there gnashing his teeth and crying, you know. Eric Swalwell would be farting all over himself. You know, I mean, it's just amazing the double standard that there is. And I don't like either side. I don't care. Y'all know that. I don't care. I'll call it out on either side. I think that, you know, that they all need to just, you know, go find something else to do. You know? It really is time for a restructuring. But the fact of the matter is that we've come to this point now where we're scared of what we have to say. That's ridiculous. If somebody says something that you don't agree with or you don't like, guess what? You ever heard about changing the channel? You can do that. You can get on the phone and you can call it in, right? Long time listener, first time caller. Send it out there. Get involved in it. You want to fight with somebody online? You want to get into one of those keyboard warrior type fucking things? Go for it. I've been in plenty of them, and I refuse to get involved in it anymore. It just gets too stupid. You know, you get called all kinds of names, you know? I mean, I've been called everything from a libtard to a neocon, QAnon, and I think the QAnon thing is, I mean, I got nothing to do with that. Or being a neocon. I mean, I believe in Medicaid for everybody. I believe that our kids should go to decent schools and that we shouldn't have homeless people. I mean, granted, some people are going to just decide that's what they want to do, and that's fine. You have those people. But, you know, here we are. We've sent $60 billion over to a country that 84% of this country didn't even know where it was located geographically, okay? To a bunch of neo-Nazis that have been shelling their own people since 2014. They've bombed 15,000 of these people in the Donbass region of Ukraine. All right? And for those of you that don't know, that's what kicked this thing off. Those are folks in that southeast portion of that country that are Russian Orthodox. They speak Russian, And they basically are Russian. However, they're in the border of Ukraine. And the Azov battalion, these fucking neo-Nazis, have been shelling these people. So there's where this came from. And 30% of the things that we've sent over there, right, in the form of different weaponry, 30% has actually made it to Ukraine. That's not even out on the battlefield. That's just making it within the country. So you've got 70% of this shit that ended up in the middle of nowhere. And you got to ask yourself, okay, there was a flight that went down in July, and it was going from Bosnia. Sorry, I had a brain fart there. I had a Biden moment. I don't have my teleprompter. Let's go from Bosnia to Bangladesh. It was a Meridian was the name of the company that had the plane. All the flight crew were Ukrainian. Now, at that point in time, they weren't letting men of fighting age leave Ukrainezia. You can't tell me that, I think it was an 8-person crew. You can't tell me that there was 8 females, 2, a pilot, co-pilot, and then 6 crew members on a cargo plane. Highly doubtful. I'd be willing to bet that there were 8 Ukrainian men on that flight. If I were a betting man, which I'm not, but were I would take I'd take the over under on that one. I'd take the over. The thing goes down in a fireball. It just ignites in the sky and goes down in grease in a field, and it's full of weapons of some sort. And the guy that was behind it was the new. Now here's where we're going to tie into the next story. The guy behind it was the new Victor Boot. Okay, if anybody saw, that's the Merchant of Death. Okay, we've all seen the movie Lord of War, right? Nicolas Cage, where he plays the weapons dealer. Okay, Victor Boot is roughly who that movie was based upon, and he's been in federal prison in the United States for quite some time because he was involved in, Jesus. I mean, where to start with this guy? I mean, he's moved, stuff all over the place. I mean, he was involved with the Taliban. He was involved in Colombia, any place where there was war. Okay, he got arrested in 2008 in Thailand. And Eric John, at the time, tried to extradite him to the United States, and in Bangladesh, they denied his extradition. Well, they went back at him, and they finally got him to extradite him. So he ended up here. He was smuggling weapons from Eastern Europe to Africa, the Middle East, all over the place. He had a plane. I heard a story. He had a plane that went into Afghanistan, and the Taliban hijacked it, and he had to go in and he had to make some slick dealings just to get his people out and everything else. They stole 3 million rounds of ammo and God knows what else. So this is the guy, right? This is the guy that we trade back to Russia for Brittany Griner. Okay, now, what Griner did, all of us obviously that are reasonable would say, hey, come on. And she got caught with some THC. Now, let me tell you this. In this state, in Wyoming, although 37 miles to the north and a few short hours drive, 5-6 hours to the south, we have Colorado and we have Montana, both of which are legal places where you can go into a dispensary and as an adult you can buy marijuana. But you cross the little imaginary line and you're fucked. And if you have that the vape thing, the oil stuff that they make, the hash oil, the extract, I believe in Wyoming it's a very little amount, I think, that is considered a felony. Like if you have over a half gram or a gram of this stuff, apparently it's a felony. And so the law, right? Like you're a resident of this state, so I mean, if you're a person that's going up to Montana, I mean, like I said, it's 37 miles to the border. I'm sure the police around here have found all sorts of this shit. I'm sure they're looking for, I mean, you probably got kids driving up there and everything else. I don't know. I've not been up there to see any of it. I don't have any clue, but just speculating. But you also know that you're taking a risk by doing that. Now, does it seem silly? Certainly, it seems silly. Wyoming's laws, all the laws on marijuana are absolutely ridiculous. And I'm certain that if I were to sit here and have a police officer sitting here with me, they'd probably say the same thing. Because as a police officer, you can imagine how many times they've had somebody that was high on weed do anything fucked up other than maybe drive way too fucking slow. I've never seen anybody do anything violent, nothing like that. But just the possession of a plant, boom, 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 you got a ticket, I mean, it's pretty silly. Whereas drunk people on the other hand, that's where you have your problems. That's where you end up with, well, what used to be Thursday night fight night at the Silver Dollar when they do quarter beer. We just called it Juby's Trailer Court Fight Night in there. But that was back when that shit went down and the police wouldn't get involved. You had a lot of bars back then. The town was a little bit crazier. This place is dead now. It's a Saturday night, and I bet you if I went out there, I'll bet you if I went downtown right now at whatever time it is, 7-something, I'll bet you it's dead. Dead. Excuse me. A little dry. Now, it is December. It is cold, but not too long ago, it didn't matter what night of the week it was. If you went into the Rusty Peso downtown, the place would be packed. It was actually a more fun time of year because it was all local people that you knew, not all the tourists and shit. I mean, we were in there all the time. We were a little debaucherous. Had some rougher times back then. I'm not that way anymore, but back then, yeah, we carried on. So, anyhow, Brittany Griner, that's the point I'm trying to make. She knew, okay, she's played basketball in Russia. She knows the laws in Russia. Now, there's conflicting points. There's some saying that she tried to leave the country with it, and some are saying she went in. I'd be more inclined to say she went in with it, but you never know. Maybe she knew some banditti over there, and they hooked her up. I don't know. I mean, everybody in Russia knows that, that's a serious crime. I mean, she got 9 years, right? She did like 150 days. Oh, they were crying? 150 days? Like, what? 150 days? Okay. Now, I've never been in a Russian gulag, and I highly doubt she was. So we make the trade, right? We decide we're going to give them the Merchant of Death. This guy that's, at one point in time, the numbers I saw, he had sold upwards of $110 million worth of illegal weapons of war, be it missiles, mortars, Kalashnikovs, AK rounds, what have you. The Kellogg's Variety Pack, whatever people wanted, wherever there was conflict, Victor Boot was involved. So we trade a WNBA player for this man. Now, does anybody think that Brittany Griner should have been in there for 9 years for what she did? No, of course not. Of course not. Of course, that's a barbaric law. But you have to know where you're at. And you have to respect where you're at. I mean, there's places where you can get the death penalty for shit like that, and you need to understand that. And she knew full well where she was at. She just thought that because she's a 6'9" lesbian African-American basketball star from the United States that she could just get away with whatever she wanted. Well, guess what? So now, here's what this does, okay? I'm not getting involved in the legalities. I don't think that she should have been in there for that, but it's not my choice because I'm not in charge in Russia over anything. I'm not in charge of anything around here. If you're traveling over there, and you have traveled, and she has played basketball over there, so she does know the laws, then, hey, you better understand you're playing with fire, right? It's just like that poor kid that Otto. I'm sorry, I can't remember his last name, and I'm not trying to do him a disservice because that was a horrible thing. But in North Korea, was over there with his class, and he took a poster off the wall in a hotel. Not trying to destroy it, he was taking it as like from what I can understand, he was taking it as a piece of like memorabilia. It's like you go out and you see something that somebody printed off and they got it taped to the wall. You think it's something you want, what's the big deal? Well, they went to leave and the North Koreans snatched him up. And years later, guess what? He ended up back here and he was in a coma and he died when he got back on American soil. Horrible story. Horrible story. But those are the games that you play when you're traveling abroad. You have to understand what you're dealing with. There's places in, Indonesia and, different countries like that where, you can get jammed up on anything. They said there's 66 Americans locked up abroad right now. Some numbers say there's only 20. We've got people in Iran. We have Paul Whelan, who's an ex-Marine, who's been locked up on espionage charges in Russia. Why didn't we get him back? Throw him in there. At least it's a better trade. But this administration is so weak. They're so weak that they took the deal. So now what does this do? This puts American travelers, anybody that's American, that's traveling abroad in one of these countries, if we have somebody of theirs that they want back, guess what? People are going to start getting snatched up. American citizens are going to start getting snatched up because of this. It's not about, tit for tat on a person as a person, right? So there's that. There's an argument to be made on that note there, but we're the United States of America. Do you think Trump would have made that trade? Trump would have had Whelan out of there. We've got people in Iran that have been there. I can't imagine what it's like being in an Iranian jail. Ooh, as an American, you can't be having a good time, right? In Russia, the Whelan guy, at least he's on the phone. He's able to make phone calls. Even those cats that they sentenced to death, those British guys, they were on Bookface and social media and shit. They still let them keep their phones and all that, which is less than what you get in the United States. You can get a cell phone in prison. You surely can. It's going to cost you $1,000 to get a flip phone, a shitty-ass flip phone from Walmart. And if you get caught with it, you're going to get another 2 years thrown on your sentence. That's why I used the goddamn landline, Because what do you think happens? You pay that guard $1,000 to bring that thing into you. And then you do something that, you guys have an altercation. He gets pissed. He's going to come shake your cell down. He's going to find that thing. And even though he's the one that brought it to you, yeah, guess what? He's going to be the one, he's going to be the one writing that shot up and hooking you up and taking your ass to the shoe, and you're going to get another 24 months on your bit. So it seems to me like that's a little more lenient because I've heard the guy talk on the, he's been on the phone, and those other guys, they were on, social media and shit. But it's neither here nor there. The whole issue is that it was a weak move, and it set a precedent. It set a precedent that, that some, any kind of a despot country with a despot leader, if they want to snatch somebody up that's an American citizen, it doesn't even have to be anybody now. Now they're going to start doing this. And I don't know. I haven't looked into who we have locked up here from other countries, but I'm willing to bet that there's quite a few of them that people are, they're going to want back. And they're going to look at this and say, well, look, shit, they traded the Merchant of Death for a WNBA basketball star. Now, hey, that's fine. I'm not going to get into the whole thing about the WNBA. It is what it is. If you like watching it, great. I don't have anything to say about it. All I know is that if, like Dave Chappelle said, if LeBron James was to go and decide that he was a female and go into the WNBA, it would be a bloodbath. that's a whole nother argument for another time. On a more comical note, we've got Sam Brinton, ladies and gentlemen. Sam Brinton, the Secretary of the Department of Energy, right? He's in charge of the disposal of nuclear waste. He stole a very high-end suitcase from the baggage claim at Minneapolis-St. Paul's Airport, full of women's clothing. Now, to me, that's a federal crime. That's robbery affecting commerce, because I'm guessing that the woman who owned the suitcase wasn't traveling within Minnesota. She was either coming or going. And so he takes the suitcase. Where he went with it, I do not know, but I guarantee he crossed state lines with it. That's a federal beef. I got charged with robbery affecting commerce, and I didn't take anything from anyone. I went into Montana not with the intention of stealing anything from anybody. Nor did I. It ended up in my truck, sure, but I didn't do it. I didn't initiate. I was just trying to get us out. And I got charged with, an interstate crime. This dude did this in Minneapolis. Well, guess what? A couple months back, Sam Brinton, non-binary puppy lover. I'll show you a picture of him. He's an interesting cat, and he's certainly got some weird fetishes, which, whatever, I mean, I don't even, you can't say much about these things, apparently. But he likes dogs, and human dogs, and having people on leashes eating dog food off the floor. Also had an interview where he was talking about child prostitution and how it wasn't necessarily such a bad thing. Non-binary dude. Anyway, so he also pulled this maneuver in Las Vegas. Now, this is somebody that the president appointed, okay? This is the guy that's the Secretary of the Department of Energy. Now, do I think he's bad at his job? I'm sorry, he's a them-they. This is a them-they situation. So I'm probably in trouble now for saying that. Sam Brinton is a them, which I really can't get used to referring to somebody as a plurality. So if we're talking about what Sam Brinton did, then I have to correct myself and refer to him as a them, or refer to Sam as them or they, or just Sam. Maybe we'll just say Sam. Them, they. I'm sorry. You want to be he or she? I'm fine. But the them thing, I don't feel like I should have to do that. Because number one, I've been speaking this language for, I'm almost 47. I don't know what age I started speaking, but it's, my entire life I've spoke the English language since I could actually speak, which I don't know if I do that well or not, but, excuse me. Anyhow, so Mr. Brinton, Sam Brinton, Secretary of the Department of Energy. Oh, I've got Korean Jump here going nuts up there. Hopefully that didn't come through. I was just going to try and find some footage of this interesting interesting. They's interesting. See, now I'm speaking incorrectly, but it is correct, right? That's what political correctness has gotten us. It's got us sounding like morons, like straight idiots, right? Them stole a suitcase from a lady in Minneapolis. Okay. I guess. Oh, I've got the stupid voice thing on now. Well, no, I did it. It's probably been recording this the whole time. Good Lord, help us all. I'll probably do something to screw this all up. I usually do. All I wanted to do was pull up a picture of this guy. That's it. Is that hard? Okay. So, we're just going to pull this up right quick. You guys can get any of this out there, so I'm not really putting anything out there that, you can't find. All right. Well, as you can see, them, they, but them's into human dogs. Which, okay, consenting adults, whatever. You don't want to be dogs, you be dogs, man. I don't care. Go be dog. You know what I'm saying? Now, be warned. I've already said that show's not for children. Okay.
Not really into sleaze, whatever that might be.
In East London, Pete and his partner Mirza are doing some...
Okay. Now. Okay, I'm not going to show too much of this because, let's see. Oh, this is interesting.
Pete is a keen leather fan, but more recently, he's discovered a new kink.
One of my biggest fetishes is actually human-animal roleplay, puppy play.
He ain't pouring no concrete. Them's not pouring concrete. Oh, them's on the... Oh, them's got a muzzle on.
Understands it. That's really important. And that's really quite special. I think without the app, I probably could not do this.
This is what Sam Britton is into. You've seen enough. I've shown enough. I don't want to watch any more of that. There we go. That's that. You've seen enough. This is this guy's thing. It is what it is. I mean, who am I to say? If it's consenting adults doing their thing, then whatever, I mean, I just found out what furries were like in 2017. I didn't know what furry was until we stayed at a hotel in San Diego for, not maybe 5 days, something like that. And it was a brand new hotel, had a whole floor. And I kept wondering, I was like, because Comic-Con was going on. So I'm like, okay, kept getting in the elevator, I'd go down to the lobby to get a beer or whatever. And get back in the elevator to go up. And we were staying in the room that we were in. We literally walked into the hotel. We got off the plane. I got on the lap and saw I can't remember if it was a Marriott or it might have been a Hyatt. I don't remember. It was right down there in Little Italy, but it's brand new, right? So we get in a cab because there's a cab right there. Instead of calling an Uber, I usually did Uber or Lyft. But there's a cab right there. I'm like, let's go. So we get in the cab, go down there, and we pull up, and there's still man lifts outside this big ass hotel. It's brand new, and we're looking at the cab. We get out, I pay him, whatever. We get out, and we walk in, and they're doing the ownership. They were having a ceremony, and these people were Indian, I'm guessing Hindu. And so they were doing a cleansing ceremony, right? They had incense burning. They had some religious figures there. They were all sitting around in a circle. We walk in, and a guy comes up and tells us that we need to leave, that we can't come back until 3:30. And I'm like, how the hell was I able to rent this? To pay? I mean, I just spent $780 or something as soon as we got off the plane in San Diego. And so here we are with our luggage and shit. And we got to hoof it up to, there's a little brew pub up the street that we ended up at, which was great. It was fine. Sat there for a couple hours though. My ex-wife wasn't happy. She was mad about it. I didn't really give a shit. I was like, fine, I've got a stool to sit on. I've got, it was one of those places that had just 100 different beers on tap. So, I drank beer back then, and I was in heaven. It was fine. They had good food and stuff. I'm trying to remember. I always go to the one in Long Beach. Now I can't even remember the name of the place. It's been so long. Anyhow, what I was getting at is here we are in this brand new hotel, and we've got these furries. And I'd asked the guy at the front desk, I said, what's going on with all these, I said, every time I get in the elevator, it's like, and they're not there. I said, there's none on our floor. And he goes, he tells me that they've rented their own floor and that they're furries. And I'm like, what? And he's laughing, this Indian guy, he's laughing. He's like, I don't know. And I'm like, what in the fuck is he talking about? So I looked it up and I was like, whoa, okay. So that's what these guys are. This is what Sam Brinton is. Now I think he's a handler. Because I believe I saw some video. I see them, not him. Them. Sorry. Sam, I believe, is a handler. Sam, I believe, is into having Sam's person be the dog. Anyway, Brinton stole a fucking $2,000 bag from the Minneapolis-St. Paul airport, and apparently has also stolen bags from Harry Reid in Las Vegas. That's now the name of the airport. I believe it used to be McCarran. Brinton had a warrant out once they finally figured out who Brinton was. See, I'm getting better at this. I gotta catch myself. Now I'm speaking all fucking slow and shit. So anyway, with the Brittany Griner thing, we got, with that and the Merchant of Death, and indirectly that, it's going to be a bad thing for people traveling abroad. So if you're traveling abroad, be careful. Pay attention to where you're going. Make sure that you're paying very careful attention to the laws wherever you're going, because there are some backwards laws in different places, just like in Wyoming. Just like you can drive 37 miles out there in the middle of nowhere. You pass an imaginary line. All there is a sign that says, welcome to Montana, welcome to Wyoming. You pass that imaginary line, then you've got something with you that you could have up there in Montana, perfectly legal, no big deal, consenting adult, whatever the fuck, and you're not all fucked up on it, but you just have it in your possession. Guess what? You got over a very little amount. I don't know how much fits in those little things. I don't know. Probably enough that, you catch yourself a felony charge. And then, if you're crossing the state lines with it, then they can get you on a federal beef for something as petty and stupid as that. So I'm saying there's stupid laws out there in stupid places. Like this fucking stupid place where I live. I love it here, but I don't like that. I think it's retarded. I think it's dumb. It's stupid. Especially when you've got two states on bordering each side. But there's a lot of revenue that comes from it as well because, they love going across the 80. These idiots come through there. You look at the highway patrol down there, they are pulling people over with, you want to talk about some drugs moving across this state. That's south of here, but you see people getting popped driving like car haulers that are just packed full of meth and weed and all kinds of crazy shit. And they're driving across the state with out of state plates and shit. And it never fails. It's like they pull them over, and it's usually because they could smell them going. You got some guy driving the fucking thing, and he's sitting there smoking a joint or whatever. It's like, dude, come on, man. Fucking amateur night. Not getting amateur time for that shit, though. I can tell you that much. The other big thing that's been in the news has been the 4 kids that were murdered in Moscow at the University of Idaho, and I don't even know what to say on that. There's been so much stuff that comes out. I feel for the families. Those were 4 kids, and there's been enough of the stuff, the photos and this and that have come out. They were just innocent kids. Initially you think, okay, well, what, did they get involved with a cartel member? Did they screw somebody up? No, these kids, no. They said that it was a party house. Well, you're talking about 20, 21-year-old kids in college. in a small town, and come on. Yeah, of course. They said, oh, there's a party house. Sometimes there was 15 to 20 people. That's a small party. Jesus Christ, when I was in college, we had parties in my 2-bedroom apartment where we had people, we had people lined up down the stairs, and because the place was just packed, too full for anybody to even get in an apartment. Also in Idaho. I mean, we do the same thing. I mean, that's what you do when you're that age. We had what I called the double long. It was a double trailer, but it wasn't double wide. It was double long. It was end to end. That place was a shit show. Absolute shit show. That's a story for another time. However, they're saying that this was a party house. It was said that that Ethan and Xana had gone to a fraternity party that night. The other 2 girls had gone to a bar, the Corner Club. There's footage of the 2 girls at the Grub Truckers food truck. Apparently they specialize in carbonara, which actually sounds pretty damn good. And that was about 1:41, 1:45, something like that. They got a ride home. Now, initially they said it was a ride share. Then they said they started referring to it as an outside ride. They went back to the house. 3-story house. I've studied the floor plans on it. Crazy setup. Kind of a weird house. The 2 girls that were downstairs apparently gotten back from a road trip that night, and they were unharmed. And it didn't show any evidence that the killer had gone down there to the bottom floor. So behind the house is like a wooded area, nothing really back there. And they think that that any number of people could have had access. Apparently there's a key code. I don't know. It looked like it had a slider. I don't know if they make key codes for the sliders. I don't know. It had been remodeled. So that makes you wonder. There's an individual that I've done some research on that very well. I'm not trying to say anything, but he fits a certain profile, and he was also present in Oregon and Washington on 2 separate occasions when somebody was murdered with a knife with similar wounds. They said the one female had more extensive violence enacted upon her. I don't know if that means that she was fighting back. They don't know if she was targeted. Here's my thing on it. Here's what I'm going to tell anybody out there that's a parent right now, especially if you're a parent, you got daughters going to college. You keep them out of those fraternities, okay? Because nothing good happens there. If you knew how many times I've had to rescue females out of a fraternity because they've been drugged, taken into a room, woke up naked with some guy in there, managed to get on the phone. I've had to go and get those people. I've had to go get those girls out of fraternities before and fight my way through those fucking assholes. I do not like the idea of fraternities. I think it's lame. I think it's weakness. I think it's just the same as being in a gang. It's this whole mentality of there's strength in numbers, right? So you're not being an individual. They want like I used to mess around with them when I was at school at Reno. And it was all in fun because we started going up there because at the Pike House, they would have this arm wrestling night like every week. And they would let anybody come in there. And so I'd go in there and I loved it because I could sit there and I was pretty big dude at the time, spent a lot of time in the weight pile and this and that, but I'd go in there and whip their asses, and it was fun as hell. And then kind of shine them on like I was thinking about going in there, to go through their rush or whatever when I had no fucking intention. And it got to the point where they like gave me one of the applications, and I took it out of there that night and just kind of stuffed it in my pocket. I was looking at it. They wanted to know like my family's income. They wanted to know every single thing. And then they started inviting me to come up there for meals. And that was when I was like, that's it. I'm done. Like my freshman year, we would, and I think statutes and limitations are over on this. I'm not going to say where it was at, but we were freshmen, right? Freshman baseball players. And so, you were always trying to do something to like impress the seniors. And this was a crazy party school. And so me and a couple of the freshman cats, we didn't even have vehicles. We just had bicycles, and we would load up our book bags with beer bottles. And they had the Greek row and all the pop collar goofy frat boys in there with their little private parties. And we would one guy would sneak around the back, and the other guys would stand out front and start whipping beer bottles at the front of these big brick fraternity houses. And of course the dudes would all come to the front door and yelling at, and the other guy, and we would rotate it up. You'd go through the back door, right? Because they always had like their whatever they call them, the little pledges, I think they call them, pledges, watching doors and doing like the bitch work. And so the commotion would go on out front, and whoever the guy was at the back door or whatever, he'd go running up there. And, you'd run through the back door and just hauling ass and just start socking dudes. Like the pop collar, polo shirt wearing fucking frat boys, just going through and just wham, and just keep on moving. You don't want to let them get their hands on you. You just keep on moving, and you run through the whole bunch of them at the front door. And, and your boys would be sitting there holding your bike up, waiting for you, and you'd jump on, and we'd take off up to laughing our asses off. We'd go back and tell like the senior guys on the team about what we did. And they would just laugh and laugh and laugh. They thought it was hilarious. We did it all the time, and nobody got, aside from maybe a black eye, maybe a bloody nose, fat lip, you didn't sit there and beat the shit out of a guy, but it was fun to go through and sock him up, and it was one of those frat houses. I had to get a friend out of there one time. And so anyway, here's my thing is if you've got daughters in college, keep them out of the sororities and keep them out of those frat houses, because there's not a good thing that goes on there. And I don't know who was behind this, but I do know that these people were involved with these fraternities, and you don't know if it was some kind of a jealousy deal. They said they found Ethan apparently out of the room. I don't know. The stories are also different. And the Moscow police, they showed up to a call about like an incoherent, unresponsive roommate. And I don't know if that would have been Ethan, because they said that he was either close to the door or he was outside the room. I don't know if he was trying to get after the guy. I don't know. I'm assuming it was a man. I don't think it was a woman that did this. But the two roommates downstairs, apparently they had the door locked. Or this fellow didn't go down there. He knew who he was going after. I don't know. It's a crazy, crazy scenario. And bloody and messy and really not all that careful. It was obviously a fit of rage. I don't think anybody knows, and it's far from me to, I can sit here and speculate just like everybody else. But the one thing that I saw with the whole deal was that they'd gone to that fraternity party and that they were involved with the fraternities. And there was an individual that had been kind of close to one of the girls, who's now conveniently, that night, he left work and went to Africa. From what I understand, he drove to Boise in the middle of the night, got on a plane, and that's where he's at. And he was supposedly the guy in the sweatshirt that was standing there at the food truck with right behind the girls. I don't know. Far be it from me. I'm just going by what they've put out there. I don't think they have a clue. But the dude he'd just gotten thrown out of a fraternity for undisclosed reasons. But he'd gotten kicked out of his fraternity, and I think he got kicked out of school. And the one girl had broken up with her boyfriend. They'd taken a break or whatever, so you don't know. Anyway, the thing is, here's what I'm saying, is parents, even if you got sons in school, I don't care if you were a frat boy, don't encourage anybody to take part in that Greek life bullshit, because nothing good happens in those frat and sorority houses. Nothing good whatsoever. It breeds young people to be stuck up, snobbish, aristocratic little fucking brats. And they think they're something because they've got numbers. It doesn't teach them to be an independent thinker. It doesn't teach them to be an independent person. And I hate to say it, but in a lot of places, it's a culture that breeds all kinds of, not only rape, but all kinds of sexual crime that goes on. They want to get females as drunk and as loaded as they can. They don't care about slipping, a roofie, a Mickey, whatever, GHB, whatever they can get their hands on. They don't care about it. Now, of course, I'm not lumping all frat boys into that category, but when it takes one for your daughter to run into. That's all it takes. My friend, when she went in that house that one night, she stopped by. She was a good friend. She lived on the other side of the dorm. She stopped by and was talking. She was like, "What are you doing night 5?" I said, "We're just gonna chill here." And she told me where she was going, and I said, "Listen," I said, "be careful." I said, "If you need anything, I said, call me." And I told her, I said, "Don't put your drink down." I'm a 19-year-old kid at the time, and I know what's up. And it was after 2 a.m. My phone rings, and she's hiding in a fucking room in the dark downstairs in her underwear, no clothes on, doesn't know what's happened to her. The guy comes in while she's talking to me, gets on the phone, asks me who the fuck I am. And I said, you better have her dressed and ready to go. I said, because I'm coming to get my friend, And he was like, fuck you, you go and go, And I said, okay. Went and got 2 of the linemen off the football team and another buddy off the baseball team, and the 4 of us went over there and we pounded the shit out of some frat boys that night, and we got her out of there. She was crying, smeared makeup, probably never write again. And I've been on that end of this thing happening a number of times. There's nothing good that happens there. So parents out there, I never thought I'd be that age to be talking to somebody who had college-age kids, but if you're my age, then you probably do. And if you got boys, I'd keep them out of there. And if you got girls, I'd make sure that they are not getting involved in that bullshit, I mean, because that's where things get, they get squirrely, real quick. So with this whole scenario that happened at the University of Idaho, I'm not saying one way or another, but they were at that frat party that night. I don't know if that other dude was a member of that fraternity that had gotten kicked out, but it's kind of weird that he drove all that way that night, all through the night to get to, maybe he did. Maybe, had a morning flight with his folks to go on vacation. It could just be all circumstantial. Another dude said the guy in the hood was a decent guy and he didn't get any bad vibes from him. But that's the thing. If you're a killer, you're not trying to put off bad vibes to anybody. Obviously, if you got ill intentions. But then there's also, the place was remodeled right before they moved in. And chances are they were moving stuff in while they were still trying to finish it up. There could have been some tradesmen in there. And this other guy I've looked at, like I said, there's no such thing as coincidence. He's just happened to be, the dude's a concert goer, and he's happened to be at concerts in different places, one in Washington, one in Oregon, where there was a murder on the same night of the concert that he was at. Both of them with a knife. Now, a knife murder that's a fairly unusual thing. Especially one like this with 4 people. Now they said, well, the roommates downstairs didn't hear anything. Well, if they got back at 1 a.m, they've been driving all night. The way their rooms are situated, there's like the kitchen and the living room right above them. The house got remodeled. They probably had new insulation in there. Maybe they didn't hear it. But somebody recorded, I saw today, there was a recording of a woman screaming from up there. So maybe it was 2 people. I don't know. It was crazy, but they said because it was a party house, maybe people had access to the key code. Maybe they didn't lock it. I don't understand why their bedroom doors weren't locked. And this is a scenario, too, that, parents of young men, you need to I mean, because that young man that was in there, and I feel for his family. I feel for the whole scenario. But, you know, had he known enough to lock that door, he's in there with his girlfriend, you know. I mean, as an oldness, we have a saying that says you guard your treasures, right? Whether it be your kids, your significant other, whatever. The people, you know, that are important to you, they're your treasures. You know what I mean? Like you value them, so you do what you can, you know, to look out for them. And the fact that there was, you know, the two girls were sleeping together in one room, and then it was the girl and her boyfriend, and then they're 20-year-old kids. I mean, they're you know, sleeping in the same bed, their boyfriend and girlfriend. I mean, whatever. That's not a big deal. I mean, that's. I was doing the same thing at that age. But, you know, I also, in my home, in my room, because we had parties all the time and people were in and out of that house all the time, I had a master lock set up on the inside of my door. And when I went to bed at night, regardless of being with a female or by myself, I locked that door. I made sure that my windows, if I had them open, I didn't have them open that far, and I had dowel rods in them, you know. I mean, it's just a little bit of, you know, and maybe they were drunk from partying and didn't think about it, just shut the door. Maybe they were used to doing it like that. But, you know, you got to talk to kids about this, you know, because it's really unfortunate that shit like this has to happen, and you have to have these conversations. But this carries on into adulthood as well. You know, lock your doors. You never know. You never know. You don't ever know who's. I mean, I live in a pretty nice neighborhood, but sometimes I see some weird cats wandering around up here. You know, and they're kind of in a stupor, and you're like, this person. That, you know, I mean, I don't look like I belong here, right? I'm the black sheep of the neighborhood. You know, I mean, I don't look like the standard cat that should be living on a golf course, but, you know, it is what it is. So anyway, that's an unfortunate thing that's gone down, and I hope that they figure it out. I mean, but regardless of, I hope they figure it out just for that community, because I know that there's a lot of kids that probably didn't go back from Thanksgiving break, and there's a lot of kids out there that are walking around scared now, especially a lot of females walking around scared, watching their back. You got people that are probably being wrongfully accused. I've seen a ton of that already. You know, and you got a guy that lives around the area that's, you know, maybe he's standoffish, maybe he's weird, awkward, you know, I don't know, he's quiet, you know, I mean, they're pointing the finger at a lot of people, but it's hard to believe that they haven't been able to figure this out, because it was grisly, which leads me to believe that maybe it wasn't, I don't know that it was somebody that was in college. It could have been this other cat that I've been looking at. Because it seems like it's somebody that has done this before. And the crazy thing is the two murders in Washington and Oregon, very similar. And they said that there's, you know, the kill shot was the knife wound to the center of the chest. I know that's grisly. It's not anything that anybody wants to think about. But, I mean, that takes that's not just sociopathic. That's psychopathic. To do that to 4 people. I mean, I've had some beef with people before. I've disliked some people. I've wanted to beat the shit out of some people, but I've never wanted to kill somebody. I mean, I've been in a fit of rage where I've hurt some people, but it's never been it's been like, once it's done, you know? It's like, I've never just jumped on top of somebody and just kept beating the shit out of them, you know? It's like, but that's the way we grew up. You get in a fight, you know, whoever, I had my ass whooped too. I've been on the other end of that. You know, I mean, everybody takes an ass whooping, you know, but, you know, the way I grew up is like, once it was done, it's done, you know, and it was never about killing somebody else. And it was more about, really more about just sticking up for yourself more so than anything. But it's a different time, different world that we live in. So, but my advice would be, especially from my experiences, you know, keep your kids out of those fraternities and sororities, because there's nothing good that goes on there. I don't care what you think, what you thought you went through when you were in college or whatever. It ain't good. There's too many different drugs out there, and there's just, you know, I mean, we had a lack of morality and shit when I was that age, and now I think it's even worse. But I mean, you know, and I saw some of that shit like that go on. Like I said, I mean, it wasn't often, but it doesn't matter, you know, often or not. If it happens, it happens, and it's happening to somebody's daughter, you know, and you know, that's not something a person's never right after going through something like that. So, or you end up with shit like this. 4 dead kids had their whole life ahead of them, you know, and that's unfortunate, and it's just fucking sad. It's totally sad, because I don't see anything that any of those people did to anybody that deserved that. So hopefully they figure out who it is, but it ain't going to bring them back. It ain't going to change it, you know. I mean, the families want justice, but what good does that do, you know? Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. I can give some shout-outs. I was trying to do a rolling shout-out page at the end of the show. I'll try and work on that later. I was going to shout-out to my cousin Cam, Ricardo, Tyler. This is no particular order. T. Hool, what's up, brother? Good talking to you the other day. K. Pook, Tommy Curdy, Joe Jackson, Long Beach Keith. Who else we got on the list here? Josh Robertson, Melissa Jones, Holly Reed. I saw you join the other day. Good to see you. Get it from you. Hope you're well. Summer Smith Lazenby. Up there in AK, my boy Nick Brooks, Will Prost. God damn, the list could go on and on and on. Aunt Bailey, what's up, Aunt? Hope all's good with you, brother. We'll have to catch up soon. Vince Bragg, what's up? What's good? I've left a ton of people off the list. I have a list of friggin' mile long, so I didn't get to anywhere close. Tom Booth, The Truth, what's up? Sammy Zeal, shout out to you guys. I don't know. The list goes on and on, so I'm going to stop with that. Anyway, from 52 miles east of Coyote, Wyoming, this is the Mike Files signing out. And if you have a chance, there should be a link to the merch if you're looking for Christmas presents for anybody. They're pretty cool logos. I'm going to come out with some more of them here probably tonight. I'm going to upload some more that I've been working on. Cool t-shirts, tank tops, hoodies, sweatshirts. Like I said, aprons, coffee cups. Let me know what else you might want. I don't know. Beer openers, wine stoppers. I don't know. I'll put whatever out there. There's a link. Should be on the Facebook thing. I'll make sure and put it out there. That should be out there on Twitter. I'll probably put some on Instagram as well. Fucking social media. Anyway. All right. As we always say, be good or be good at it. In all things, do no harm. And be kind. That's about it. Peace out.